Hey everyone, so I just got back from a trip to Europe, and for those of you who have been watching this channel, you know that I made a video about gay dating in New York City, so it was something that was in my mind when I was visiting Europe. I went to Italy, Spain, France, and England. And of course, while I was there, I tried to, see what gay life was like there, and that's something that I'm always thinking about whenever I travel. So I figured, why not make a video about gay dating in Europe as well? So obviously, you know, this is not like the best indication of gay dating in general in Europe because I was only there for 2 weeks. So it's kind of silly for me to be like, oh, just from a 2-week trip, I know what gay dating is like in a multitude of these countries in this continent of Europe. So bear with me, but these are just some of my observations which I thought were interesting compared to the things I've noticed in the States. The countries that I went to, where I talked, on apps to gay guys and where I tried to go to gay bars, generally speaking, I felt like gay dating was easier in Europe, but ironically, from the apps, I felt like there was more engagement than usual, whether it's Grindr, Tinder, Bumble, whatever. But I felt like the gay bars are definitely lacking, at least compared to what I'm used to with LA, New York City, Miami, and so on. So, for example, in Italy, I tried going to the gay bars in Rome and in Florence, and I was so disappointed. So in Rome, I will say I went at like 10 p.m. on a weeknight, and even 10 p.m. on a weeknight in New York City, it's not going to be like packed with people, but there's still at least like a little bit of a presence if we're talking about a gay bar that has like, that's in a hip area or whatever, like Hell's Kitchen. But there were only like a few gay bars in Rome, in the same area near the Colosseum actually, and they were basically empty. Like a few other tourists, but that was it. And I was like, come on, like this is Rome, this is the biggest city in Italy, one of the biggest cities in Europe, and this is the presence? Like, I was pretty stunned by that. Florence was even worse. Florence, for people who know, like Florence is even smaller than Rome, so it's not shocking. But I went to one gay bar. I believe there might have actually been even one gay bar in Florence, if I remember correctly, or at least one like relevant gay bar. I walked by it on a Saturday night, again like 10 p.m., empty. I would say there were 3-4 people who seemed to be locals, and that was it. So I thought that was kind of disappointing. But I was pleasantly surprised that like just from being there a few days, I matched with a few guys and chatted with them. I didn't actually meet up with anybody because I was there for such a short time that it just like didn't work out. By the time I had been talking to someone a sufficient amount that like we both would have wanted to meet, it was my last night and he was working or whatever. So I didn't meet anybody in Italy. Side note, every other man in Rome looked like a direct descendant of Julius Caesar. I'm not even kidding, like tall, lean, chiseled face. I was kind of in awe. In France, I was kind of like in the suburbs in the south of France, so I didn't really make much of an effort. I'm sure there probably weren't even any gay bars. In Barcelona, I was sick the whole time, so I didn't really go out, but I did walk through, I guess what's seen as the gay neighborhood, because there's a bunch of gay bars. It seemed cool, but I just can't judge it because I didn't actually go in. London was a game changer for me, so I matched with all these guys. I actually went on a date in London from a guy who I'd only been talking to for like a day or two. It was a fantastic date. He showed me around the Thames River, and it was just fantastic. And that is so rare for me that I meet somebody from an app, we meet quickly, we get along, we're still in touch. And the funny thing is, the night before I went on a date with him, I met this guy at a bar, and we said we would meet up the next night. So I went on back-to-back dates, which has never happened in my life ever. So of course, like maybe that's just because I was a tourist, so when you're a tourist, maybe you make more of an effort, and people make more of an effort with you because they know there's a deadline, like an expiration date that you're leaving. It could have just been good luck, but I was really impressed with what being gay is like in London. Just a ton of guys, generally pretty communicative, and what I loved about London is that there's a neighborhood of gay bars, kind of like New York City with Hell's Kitchen. There's just this there's just this region where there's a ton of gay bars, so you kind of just can like hop around. What I did think was weird is that they close super early, like 11 p.m. or right before midnight, which is like unheard of. There's one or two that stay open pretty late, but the main one is like kind of a drama to get in. You have to go to another bar, it's like sister bar, and get a wristband before it closes, so that then you can wait in line for the one that stays open late. I thought it was just kind of silly and annoying. It's pretty interesting to me that like it seemed easier to maneuver interactions on the apps compared to in America, but the bar presence was like radically different from in the US. So I left Europe having gone on 2 dates back to back, both in London. Both guys were really cool. I'm still in touch with them. And that is so unusual for me. Like, that has never happened. So my general impression was positive. I feel like in Europe, I do think it's a cultural thing that people care more about like a community sense. I also think it's, you know, most cities in Europe are smaller than like a juggernaut like New York City. So I think perhaps people are more inclined to make an effort to build connections. Whereas in a place like New York City or even LA or even Miami, it's a revolving door, right? Like people party, people go out, there's always somebody new they're gonna meet, so they don't necessarily invest the same way. If you've ever been to Europe or you live in Europe, I'd love to hear your feedback and see what you think. I'm sure there's a little bit of that like the grass is always greener, you know, concept, so it would be interesting to see if people agree with me or if they've had a totally different experience.